My name is Guisepi Spadafora, and I guess people call me the T-Man, or Mr. T sometimes. Yeah, and we're sitting here right now in Edna, the T-Bus. This is a mobile-free tea house. So I travel the country and I pull up to random city streets, events, farmers markets, wherever there are people. It might be a surf spot, it might be a mountain trail, and I make tea for free for people. I offer a completely non-monetary interaction. Well, you know, I got started doing this simply because I was living in a large city in Los Angeles, and I was feeling a lack of community. I didn't know anyone. I was working full-time as a video editor, and I wanted to have genuine human interactions. And I found that most of my interactions that were with strangers or people maybe I wanted to meet, they all revolved around money, and there was always some kind of barrier there. And you know, I would go to a bar and girls would ask, you know, hey, you want to buy me a drink? And I'm like, wow, that's the least genuine human interaction I could possibly have. This person only wants to talk to me because they want my money. And so I just kind of out of, I don't know what possessed me, but I just started pulling down to Hollywood Boulevard after work, and because I was working right there in Hollywood, and this is literally the Walk of Stars. This is where, you know, Hollywood Boulevard. It's where there's people of all walks of life, and literally you have crackheads, everything from crackheads to movie stars on the same street, and tourists from all over the world. And I started just cooking my dinner on my tailgate, and you know, pulling out the Coleman stove and offering food. People would, what are you doing? Why are you doing this here? What is this? And I'd say, well, this is my kitchen. Where else would I cook? You know, or I want to meet people. Come sit with me. And inevitably people would sit with me and eat with me, and then I would just make tea for hours to keep that going. And what I found was when I took money out of the interactions I was having with people, it became more genuine. And of course, over the years, I've realized, I guess partially why that is, and I think a big part of it is because you know, we've been trained that maximizing profit is the heart of human interactions, and that's really not the case for most of human history. You know, money is about 5,000 years old, and human beings are 195,000 years old, which trips people out a lot to think about that and think about money as really the heart of all of our interactions and how we get all of our basic necessities met, when in reality for most of human history, and even, you know, 1.8 million years is, you know, the first upright hominid, Homo erectus. So thinking about money in those terms really makes one second guess what the central, you know, ideas behind human interactions are and what it is an interaction needs to be successful. Yeah. So, you know, so essentially, I think that we all know that from a young age that a lot of our interactions with people that we care about and we love, our family, our close friends, we practice these forms of sharing or resource sharing, or you know, sometimes it's a resource, sometimes it's a service, sometimes, you know, it's a hug. I don't know, whatever it is, and we don't think about those in terms of like calculating them. We don't, but we do have some kind of expectation, like from people in our community, that we support each other. And you know, if I help you one day, like we all hope that you'll help me the next day, or whatever it is. And I think that that's really where kind of this difference has come in, for me at least, in human interactions, where I love sharing and I love reciprocity and I love having interactions where I'm giving to someone and they're giving to me. But the moment we define it and we try to put a metric to it, a number, whether it's using a dollar, or it's bartering, those kinds of one-for-one interactions really don't lend themselves to long-term intimate interactions, and they're really not as successful as interactions where let's say I want to see you succeed and you want to see me succeed, and we have this personal interaction where we're going to share something that's not calculated and that's actually personalized to the situation, and that's based, yeah, on that mutual wanting to see each other succeed. The T-Bus really is the opposite end of the spectrum of what we've kind of come to create, which is a very kind of the opposite of sharing, I guess, in society, of you know, really seeing greed and selfishness as this like ideal to practice in life. It's a dog-eat-dog world. You've got to step on other people to get ahead, which, like, what is ahead mean? Ahead of whom, and why would you need to be ahead of anyone else, kind of thing. I guess that's my thinking. But in in the scale that I practice sharing with the tea bus of free tea, there is literally nothing required in return. And that's really just a balancing factor to help balance out the extreme end of where our culture has become today. And so 95% of the people who I give tea to, I don't receive anything direct back, but I do receive indirectly back from those people. And that is in this greater sense of when I share with someone, I tell people this a lot. If I give to you and you give to me, it ends there. And that's kind of traditionally where one-for-one interactions kind of are held. It's with people that you don't want to have continued relationships with, or people that maybe you don't trust, or people who are outside your community or tribe. That's traditionally bartering, and money has been used for those kind of interactions. But if I give to you and you give to me and it ends there, that's it. It's over. But if I give to you and you give to someone else, it can go on indefinitely. And what that does, when you share something with someone, whether it's a physical resource, it's emotional, like being a shoulder for someone, or an ear, or a service, you actually are strengthening your community. And that's an investment. When you, I think humans' natural state is to live in smaller communities, and you know that when you share and you give to someone in your community or the community at large, you're strengthening your community, which ultimately comes back at you indirectly in the form of community resilience, and you're more successful because of it. And I think that, that's what, learning real skills and having time to socialize and building intimate interactions with people and with resources and the things you consume, those things all strengthen your ties to each other. You create this web of kind of interdependence where people are mutually supporting each other. Even I think in our country, and especially here, we're in Texas, this image of the cowboy is super iconic. This lone man who fends for himself in the wasteland desert. That's not the nature of reality, and we like to we've kind of overemphasized individualism in our country to the point where we don't recognize that even we ourselves are, 90% of the cells in our body do not have our DNA. They're bacteria, viruses, and fungi, and things that actually exist within us. We are, like I said, 90% of the cells in our body, which is only about 10% by weight and volume, but in sheer numbers, we are a living ecosystem. The term "I" barely applies, in a sense. And so understanding, hyper-individualism is really the antithesis to community, and finding that balance in personal resilience and community resilience is, probably one of the most beneficial things that anyone can create in their life, where, you find your role within the community, you find your role for yourself, you take care of yourself, you take care of others, and it becomes much less of a struggle. I think we're almost addicted to struggle as people, so for some reason we want to think that everything has to be really hard. But I mean, at least what I've found is that when you share and you give and you want to support people, and you have elders that are teaching you skills, and then you're passing those on, and wisdom, and you are providing some kind of function and supporting in some way, it all comes back around, and it doesn't have to be highly calculated like we're trained.